Hey, deserving listeners, season 3 of Love is Blind. Let's watch it. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's see what comes out of my face.
Zay, what are we fighting about in this moment?
We're fighting over the difference, you can get them, between the word good and the word great.
Oh, tell me more.
This one doesn't seem to think there's a difference between good and great.
Zay said, oh, we had such a great night. I said, it was so good. It was so good.
It was good.
And here we are.
Uh-oh. So, yeah, this is completely in line with what I've been saying. I don't need to repeat it. I don't know, of course, but these are signs of pursuer distancer, of hypervigilance, of preoccupation, of distorted viewpoints, distorted lens that you're looking at a partner through. The closer you get, the more vulnerable you feel, the more scared you are of losing the person. The more paranoid you get, the more distorted you get. You hear something like good and you interpret that in the most negative way possible. It's like, oh, he said good, he didn't say great. That must mean he doesn't love me. And then that's where it begins, the hurt, and it's natural to do that, but then to transform it into hostility and self-assured attacking someone. So I don't know if that's what's happening, but it sounds like it. She's attacking him emotionally, saying, you said good, you didn't say great. There's something wrong there. And of course, it's coming from a place of fear and a place of worry, which is fine, but to transform it into hostility, attacking someone, accusations, and you see the look on his face. I think this is the second day, so this doesn't bode well.
In all this trouble because I didn't say great. I said good.
Yeah, this can become tiresome very quickly to be attacked for something like that. Someone is saying, oh my God, I thought last night was great. What do you think? And you're like, yeah, it was so good. It was so good. And then you're fighting all day about the fact that you said the word good instead of great, even though you meant great, or you were in context saying that it was awesome, it was completely great. And to be nitpicked and to be attacked in this way that someone is just so sure of themselves, they're just like, no, you absolutely are a bad person. I mean, not only are you tricking me and you hurt me and I have reasons to be angry at you, but I'm going to hold this over your head for the next 24 hours and I'm not going to listen to you, even though I think up until this point, I don't know, he's been trying to say, no, I meant good, it was great, yeah. And to not listen to that, to not hear it, to not value it, to just be, no, I know what's happening right now, because it feels hurtful. Now, I don't know, if we had more data, if we saw it, maybe I'd be more convinced of her perspective, but I'm just telling you the way that it looks.
What do you have to say for yourself? Semantic.
If it was great.
You crazy little semantic stickler.
So, I don't know, you could argue that it's a passive aggression on his part. He's trying to be hostile in his way by outing her on the video, because I think he knows that might be posted. I think he also might be trying to make light of it. It might be his way along the way of various different things that he's done to try to correct the situation. He thinks, well, maybe if I make a joke of it, then we can make light of it and move forward here, and maybe she'll see what's going on.
How you gotta do it?
Who knew this was such a sophisticated game?
Okay.
I can't with you and your little girly drink, and you're like getting it all in there.
Now they're editing it, so maybe she's just being playful or something. And I'm reminded of something that I actually took note of in my notes, that she had this moment when she was falling in love with Cole and wanting him to ask him to marry him, or somewhere in that zone. And she said, the old me would say, I don't deserve this. She's like, I feel like I deserve it this time. And, the old me would say, I don't deserve this. So that lends itself to the conceptualization that I am hypothesizing about. I don't know, of course, but for people with preoccupied attachment, they early in life were treated in such a way that they actually do believe they don't deserve love, that they're not lovable, because that's how they were being treated. And they believe that they have to work really hard to get people to love them, including possibly being hypervigilant about signs of rejection. They have to always make sure that they're, it's sort of like if you are taking care of a bunch of kindergartners. You have 10 kindergartners that you're taking care of, and you're on a boat and they all have their life preservers on, but it's just you in charge of 10 kids on a boat, you would be hypervigilant about making sure that the kids don't go overboard because the risk and the consequences could be very, very serious, right? Well, that is analogous to the way some people will feel in a romantic relationship when they've had a lot of attachment disruptions in their past that did result in abrupt, sudden abandonment and betrayal, whether that's actually someone leaving the house because of divorce or something, or if it's emotional. There could be an emotional abandonment where you feel abandoned by your parents, even though they live with you and they're in the house. And so for these individuals, they're in a constant state of terror that one of the kindergartners is going to go over the rail, and that's all that they can focus on, right? And if someone comes along and says, hey, what sort of lunch do you want? You might be so preoccupied with making sure the kids don't fall out of the boat. You don't even want to answer that question. You don't even want to look at the person. You don't even want to think about food because there's so many things that you're preoccupied with, right? So when you're young and you are told that you're not worth it, or you're being treated that way anyway, and you believe you have to be hypervigilant to hold on to attachments, then, so to go to the analogy, there's the kids on the boat and there's a bump. There's some waves up ahead. You see a little bit more waviness in the water up ahead and the boat is going toward it. Your anxiety would become very, very intense, right? And you might actually force all the kids to sit in the middle of the boat while you hold on to all of them, right? Because you're coming up on some choppy waters, and that would be rational in that situation. But when it feels that way to the individual in romantic relationships, and any sort of attachment for that matter, then it's not necessarily rational, right? You don't have to react to every little sign that someone might leave you, because if you do that, one, it's very stressful for you and unfair to you, but it also means that you might overinterpret dangers that aren't actually there and thus be hostile with people in a way that pushes them away from you.
So we got to be honest with each other and nip it in bud, like me telling you that you're passive aggressive all the time.
Exactly. Day 2, give it to me. I will try to have it fixed by maybe day 4. Maybe just tell me if I'm being in your face too much, because I do feel like I come on very strong and I feel like I want your attention and I want to be in your face.
Okay, good. This is a really good sign. So they're talking about it. He's holding to his position. I think that she's being hostile. They say passive aggressive. I don't know if that's the term I would use precisely, because it is not very passive. Passive in the true sense, in the true psychological sense, is very, very hidden. And her aggressiveness, her hostility, when we say passive aggressive, a better phrase is hidden hostility. It's much easier to understand, I think, for people. But for her, I think she's overtly hostile. Now, you could argue that it's hidden in that it's like she's playing a game, like she's giving a silent treatment. You could say that's passive aggressive. Anyway, point is that she's able to say, look, I can come on a little strong sometimes, which is great. It shows differentiation, shows that she can recognize that in herself and, in a sense, I guess, kind of apologize and recognize maybe what she's putting him through. So let's watch.
Day 2, give it to me. I will try to have it fixed by maybe day 4. Maybe just tell me if I'm being in your face too much, because I do feel like I come on very strong and I feel like I want your attention and I want to be in your face. I just don't want you to be like, can you give me some space? That's all you need to tell me.
Okay, so I think she's referring to earlier this morning when she thought he was being very distant. And so she is being very functional right now and differentiated and healthy by saying, look, it'd be helpful if you just said, I need my space, because that's okay. I can be real in your face sometimes. I can be very pursuing. And so if you just tell me, then I'll probably be okay with it. So that's great that she's saying that right now. Now, I don't know what his perspective is, because he could say, I wasn't needing my space this morning. I felt you needed your space because you were hostile with me or standoffish. You were assuming I wanted space, but I didn't. I was just being morning time, or I was giving you your space because you were sleeping in or something like that.
And I had no idea this was right on the other side.
Everyone was like, can you imagine what he looks like? And I was
So I don't know if they edited that, but it kind of sounded like he was saying, I had no idea that you would be hostile in real life. And now I'm seeing that in real life, you're actually hostile with me and sensitive or something, overly sensitive. So I don't know if that's what he's saying, or if he's just, or they edited in a bit later when he's like, I had no idea that what you would look like because none of us knew. Neither one of us knew what each other would look like. Because she starts talking about what he looked like, so that makes me think they edited something there.
It wasn't anyone different in the pods. I just don't run around saying those things to people. Telling a guy all these sweet things, being that like open and honest about my feelings, and
Have they changed?
mm-mm.
Okay. Well, maybe I should back up.
Okay.
How do you feel about getting married in 4 weeks in this moment?
Okay, so this is good. I think he has questions given what's been happening today, and so he's worried that she doesn't love him anymore, and so he's asking directly. It's like, so, honestly, in the moment right now, how do you feel about getting married in 4 weeks? And so he's opening that up. Let's see what she says.
I replayed every conversation we had in the pod.
Which ones come to mind?
All of them. This needs to like match up to that because I feel like that was really.
That was really amazing. I think we just need time, is all I'm saying, to like rekindle what we had.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's only been like 2 days though.
It's only been like a day.
Okay, so maybe there is hope. Because I am pulling for them. I do hope that things work out.
So you feel like I might fall out of love with you in the next 4 weeks?
I don't feel like that's going to happen. It's just that would be my greatest fear. That would be the most heartbreaking outcome.
Okay, so he's being vulnerable. He's saying, I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be heartbreaking. That would really hurt if that happened, if you did fall out of love with me. Maybe by him leading the way with that vulnerability, it'll help her. Let's see what she says.
Yeah. I still stand with like Kohler bust, so.
Well, I'm Zenib or bust.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, it's hard to know what really happened because they edited it. I wish they would just do a two-person camera and just show us the entire conversation so we can trust what happened, or at least I could. But what are you going to do? So the way they edited it anyway, she seemed like maybe happy that he said what he said, but maybe not fully trusting it. So she didn't have a reciprocal statement of any kind, because that was pretty vulnerable. It was just like, yeah, if you fell out of love with me, that would just completely devastate me, he says. And I think that's true. And that would have been a time for her to say, oh my God, me too. I'm so glad that you said that. Or I don't know, something. But she just sort of said, huh, interesting.
Fall out of love with you in the next 4 weeks?
I don't feel like that's going to happen. It's just that would be my greatest fear. That would be the most heartbreaking outcome.
Yeah. I still stand with like Kohler bust, so.
Well, I'm Zenib or bust.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Again, hard to know what really happened because I'm pretty sure that was edited, at least somewhat. But I wonder if it was along these lines that she is still hurt and worried and doesn't feel comfortable opening up emotionally in that moment, which again could hurt him and could concern him and could worry him such that he could actually pull away, actually reject her, and actually fall out of love with her, which is what I think is her biggest nightmare as well. I don't know.
If there's any reservation from my end, it's just because I don't know if you're comfortable with me or not.
I think that's like kind of like what we're feeding off of, because like you feel it from me, so then you're not sure, and then I feel it from you, so then I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
So someone needs to like be the energetic lead. It's the razzle dazzle.
Okay, so I don't know if it's just normal awkwardness that they're now seeing each other. I should move that frame. Sometimes the frame I land on is a little funny, but that one actually, point is that it could just be normal awkwardness, and it's glad that they're putting words to it, right? They're not getting insecure and attacking each other. So they're saying that they're a little standoffish, they're a little reserved, and I didn't show it, I don't think, but she, I think, was asking him that to come out of his shell a little bit more or something. And he was saying, well, if there's any reason why I'm being a little reserved, it's because I'm not really sure what's really happening right now. I think essentially I'm not very secure that you actually love me or you want to be with me. And she's saying the same thing. And that pertains to what I was saying earlier, where two avoidant people, or if you have one avoidant person and one person who might also be avoiding just because of the relationship, then there's no one there to bridge the gap. And this could be her way. I don't know. I could be reading into it, where she's like, hey, normally I'm with people who are pursuing me. She even said something along those lines. And so this doesn't feel great. I need you to actually bridge the gap. I need you to be chasing me, because if you don't, then we're going to be very separate and awkward and both reserved, and we can't both be reserved, right? Now, the answer is for both of them to be vulnerable, which they're kind of doing in this moment. They're both saying, well, I'm a little unsure about what's happening and I don't know what to say, so I'm a little reserved, and that's being vulnerable. It's a way of saying, I have fears, I have investment into this relationship. I'm worried, and oh, you're worried too. Oh, okay, well, and then you can learn, oh, okay, so I'm getting a little bit of a cold shoulder from them. It's not because they don't love me, it's because they're worried that I'm going to reject them. Oh, okay. And then they seem to be actually bonding in this moment, which is very healthy.
Razzle dazzle.
Where is your attraction level now? I mean, we've spent close to 24 hours together.
I feel like it's only growing. I mean, above average. Like, for me, like, yes, attraction grows. I guess the bonding.
Yeah.
For me, it's not the attraction. Like,
okay.
What about you?
I am attracted to you.
Okay.
No questions.
Okay, I don't know if I'm reading into things. I guess I'm sort of ruined by previous seasons where things like this usually grew into more problematic things. But I don't know. She's saying, well, my attraction is growing. The bond is growing. My feelings for you are growing. Well, that kind of says that they're not very big yet. They're small. Now, it would be totally natural for that to occur because you just met them, okay? But he's saying, no, I'm totally into you. I'm totally attracted to you. Does this mean that that difference will become a problem? Does it mean that she isn't really attracted to him and is not really accepting that or admitting that to herself yet? I don't know. Will it grow? Will her feelings for him grow? Or is it already pretty big and it just needs to grow a little bit more? I don't know.
Like, I don't feel like in any relationship I've ever been in, I've been like, I'm just so attracted to this person. I just want to rip their clothes off. Like, I don't feel like that.
That's like standing in between us. Like, we haven't really like gotten over that.
Yeah.
Block and be in that final space where we're like, oh, like, you know, we're here now. Is the block starting to slowly melt? I think we've made some progress.
I don't know, but he could be referring to a vibe, either consciously or subconsciously, that she's putting up a wall. Now, maybe he does too. The thing about this show is that we don't get a lot of data on the men for some reason. I wonder what that is. I seem to have a lot of hypotheses about the women, but not so much about the men. I mean, it could be bias on my part, of course, but I feel like if I saw something, I would talk about it. So I don't know, maybe he has an issue there as well. But she did also say something earlier, which is that regardless of what relationship she's in, she doesn't usually feel that tremendous compulsion towards another person, what she's calling razzle dazzle. She's hoping that he will have it, I think is what she's saying, or she's hoping that she will learn or it'll grow within her or something. I don't know. But it's hard for me to tell, but it certainly does fit within the early working hypothesis that I have, that due to her early childhood issues, she has learned to cut herself off and to put up walls automatically, not on purpose. I think she's really trying to overcome that, and I think she's succeeding some of the time for sure. But it sounds like he's detecting that in her, or at least between them. But I don't know, he could also have walls. He could also be pushing her away, and that, I don't know, it's just hard to tell at this point.
Has the block completely disappeared? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And I'm really just focused on trying to make that happen.
Now, they could also just be incompatible. The chemistry might have been there in the pods and it's not there in person. So it's just interesting, though, because when they meet for the first time in the hallway, they all seem to be very much in love and so much chemistry. And then when they're actually in person on the honeymoon, some of the couples, it doesn't seem to be there, whereas other couples, it's like, oh, that's still there. There's still like a massive amount of attraction, right? Like the other couples that I haven't been commenting on because they seem to be doing really well. Colleen and Matt seem to be doing really well. And Alexa and Brennan seem to be doing really well. And I think Nancy and Batiste seem to be doing okay thus far. Although Nancy they were having their first night together and they were in the bathtub. And Nancy started talking a lot about toilet stuff. I didn't show that scene. And it reminded me, I recently did a whole deep dive And it reminded me because I recently, I'm publishing my deep dive on apology, and during the culture chapter, I talked about how in my family, different families have different cultures. Typically, when we're using the word culture, we're thinking these big groups of people like, Japanese Americans or Chinese people or French people or something. But even in the same community, there will be different cultures, and sometimes it's unrelated to ethnicity. You can just have a different family culture. And in my family, we have a culture where toilet jokes and fart jokes are completely fine. They're not vulgar. They're funny, and people just talk about it openly. I don't know where my parents got that from, but that's how we are. I learned the hard way, kind of, as an adult, that most people are not like that. So I don't know if that's what Nancy was exhibiting, that for her, it's just like, yeah, toilet stuff. And she was really going far into it, and he seemed uncomfortable. I don't think he was put off by it, but he's just like, what is going on here? So, aside from that, they seem to be having a lot of chemistry, the two of them, Nancy and Bartiz. What did I say, Batiste? All right, well, that is for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.